Okay. Hi. Uh, welcome. This is almost right. So give me one moment while I fix some technical things. But let me know. Can you hear me? I'm missing my background. I'm aware of that now. But hi, welcome to Archival Adventures. I'm your host, Anthony Wright Day Hernandez, Community Collections Archivist here at Virginia Tech. Also known in some places on the interwebs as Rogan27. How do I get to the thing I need? First, let's just fix this, because it's silly. It's my fault. I have two computers, and I forgot that the one that was currently attached to the setup is not the one that I normally stream from. And it was not actually prepared with all of the things that it needed to be. Oops. It's fine. But I appear to be missing the background. And I'm confused as to why. It's okay. I'm just gonna add it. But I love that even when things are normal, I manage to have them not work correctly. So how is everybody? I'll talk about what we're going to look at today in just a moment. I hope that you're all having a great midweek. It has warmed up here. It also managed to get a little humid. And I've been running around getting stuff prepared because we're swapping exhibits in various places. So I've been a little scattered. I'm always a little scattered. This is the final Wednesday in the month of February, which, if you're not aware of how I have defined this year, the final Wednesday in each month, we are looking at things from the Heron Speculative Fiction Collection. So we will be looking at an item of speculative fiction today. Sorry, I'm navigating to the file I need, and oh my, this is taking forever. This and... Wow. Let's just, bump that to the back here, and let's, that's a little better. It's not right, but it's better. What did I do? Hang on. You're gonna lose visual on me for a second. Hi. This is me. We're gonna get this, and I'm gonna check on the chat here. Hi, chat. I apologize. Hannah, it is good to see you. SiriBot, thank you for being a good bot. Shadows, 3-stream streak. I love to see it. A Vish. Scale to width, please. And bounding box size of 1920 by 1080. No, 1080, not 180. There! There's a background behind me now! Wow. And high key squared. You're here with foods. Wait, we went through all 4 seasons in about 24 hours between yesterday and today. Oh gosh, for the weather? Yeesh. It has warmed up a bit. The humidity spiked quite high, which has not been great. I have no idea. I have done something wrong. It's fine though. We'll figure it out. Hi everybody. Welcome to Archival Adventures. Let me actually get the show started. Now that I have finished with the oops, F it, we'll do it live, of I have 2 computers. I usually run the stream from the other computer. I realized that this was the wrong computer when I clicked the go live button. And the stream key was not already saved in my OBS. Swapping them wasn't really a great option. So it was, I've got everything set up. It shouldn't be a problem, except that I didn't have I've made edits to the scenes in OBS on the other computer that were not in this OBS, which is, partly why there was no background behind me. It's fine. It's all fine. It doesn't really affect anything except that it delayed the start a little bit. My apologies. Thank you for bearing with me. Hi, SimSilica. Hi, Meridu. Exactly, Shadows. This is fine. Ooh. This is mostly see-through bottle. This is fine. Anyway, now that we have that fixed, let's talk about history. This is a show where we look at things from the archives and special collections. Therefore, we're looking at history, and it's important at a large institution, such as Virginia Tech, to keep in mind the history of the institution. So, we like to just, review this at the start of each stream. Virginia Tech acknowledges that we live and work on the Tutelo and Monacan people's homeland, and we recognize their continued relationships with their lands and waterways. We further acknowledge that the Morrill Land Grant College Act of 1862 enabled the Commonwealth of Virginia to finance and found Virginia Tech through the forced removal of Native nations from their lands in Western territories. We understand that honoring Native peoples without explicit material commitments falls short of our institutional responsibilities. Through sustained, transparent, and meaningful engagement with the Tutelo and Monacan peoples and other Native nations, we commit to changing the trajectory of Virginia Tech's history by increasing Indigenous student, staff, and faculty recruitment and retention, diversifying course offerings, and meeting the growing needs of all Virginia tribes and supporting their sovereignty. Virginia Tech acknowledges that its Blacksburg campus sits partly on land that was previously the site of the Smithfield and Solitude plantations, owned by members of the Preston family. Between the 1770s and the 1860s, the Prestons and other local white families that owned parcels of what became Virginia Tech also owned hundreds of enslaved people. We acknowledge that enslaved Black people generated wealth that financed the predecessor institution to Virginia Tech, the Preston and Olin Institute, and they also worked on construction of its building. Not until 1953, however, was the first Black student permitted to enroll. Through inclusive VT, the institutional and individual commitment to prosim, that I may serve, in the spirit of community diversity and excellence, we commit to advancing a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. Ooh. Thank you for dropping the notes in the chat there. Hi, Lord Portico. And indeed, yes, thank you for the historical terms. And Lord Portico, attendance award, 7-stream streak. Thank you and congratulations. I didn't see. Did Mubot pick a VIP yet? Somebody who's active in the chat on the Rogan 27 channel will be selected as a VIP for the stream and get access to such things as a little graphic diamond next to your name and the ability to post links without asking first. Yeah, it doesn't look like it has happened yet. So there's still a chance, Portico, that you might be the VIP. So today on Archival Adventures, as I said, we will be looking at things from the Heron Speculative Fiction Collection, and what we are looking at today happens to be one issue, just one issue of Dianetics, or no, sorry, just one issue. Wow, my brain. Just one issue of Astounding Science Fiction from May 1950, and it contains the first publication of Dianetics, which is our focus today. Dianetics being one of the foundational documents of Scientology. So we'll be talking and learning about Scientology. I know very little. Dianetics was written by L. Ron Hubbard. And so this entry in the science fiction, or the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, is linked in the Mubot Finding Aid command. And we'll look at this entry because it'll give us a little bit of background before we dive in. We will look at the history not just of Dianetics, which is this article, but I plan to pop through into the article on Astounding, which is the magazine, and maybe get a little information about L. Ron Hubbard himself. But we're gonna actually look at the magazine from May of 1950, and I will probably read part of Dianetics, because I'm curious. I do not know exactly how it I've never read it, so I'm curious, and I'd like to get a glimpse of it. If anybody does know more or wants to provide context or commentary on what we're looking at, that's what the chat is for, and we do appreciate discussion. So it looks like Meridu, you have been randomly selected by Mubot as VIP for this stream. So enjoy the diamond. Enjoy the ability to post links. I think those are the only benefits right now. But enjoy being a VIP for today. We appreciate you. the time of year for tax auditing, so might as well cover the other kind of auditing. Yes, I understand there is something called auditing as part of Scientology. I really know very little. Lord Portico's getting these historical terms command ready. So, just to start, this is the May 1950 issue of Astounding Science Fiction. I'm going to adjust the document camera a little bit here. Just want to get it to a good spot. So that is what the cover looks like, and you can see down here at the bottom, it looks like just any of the pulp sci-fi magazines. It was 25 cents, published May 1950. The title is Astounding Science Fiction. It promotes a story, The Helping Hand by Paul Anderson, which I presume the illustration goes with the story, The Helping Hand. And then Dianetics, A New Science of the Mind. No idea. We'll find out, though. Which is kind of the whole point. Like, I'm curious. Man, how old is Wolverine? So let's... this is something we can do. Let me see what is in here about the cover illustration. Cover by Brush. Illustrations by Brush, Carter Miller, Rogers, and Ward. But it doesn't really tell me, it just says who the artist was. It doesn't say what is being illustrated. Sometimes they do, but apparently this one doesn't. Anyway, we're gonna find out about the things in this magazine. That's the whole point of what we're doing today. I do have one other thing I forgot. I don't know if this will work. I found a thing that might let me zoom. Oh. Well, okay. I haven't used this before. I'm hoping that it will function to let me do digital zooming on the fly. I'll have to just adjust one of the settings here real quick. But it looks like it will function for what I need. It just changed the camera resolution in OBS, though. Let's fit to screen. Thank you. There. That's actually super, super helpful. Because I can zoom in up to 7 times. Oh, wait. What? Okay, now I'm confused. What happened? It did things, but it doesn't show you the zoomed version. Well, it was worth a try. It failed. It's fine. I have other ways. Technology just doesn't want to work with me today, but it's fine. It's totally fine. This is fine. Hi, Lethal Smile. Welcome in. Enjoy your lurk. Okay, so we're going to start with the encyclopedia entry because I'd like to get some background before we actually dive into the content of this issue of Astounding Science Fiction. And before we dive into like the actual text, the original published text of Dianetics. So what do I need? I need this. So we're starting with the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction entry on Dianetics. According to its adherents, a science. According to its disbelievers, a pseudoscience. Which, according to the encyclopedia, pseudosciences are defined as belief systems which, though adopting a scientific or quasi-scientific terminology, are generally regarded as erroneous or unproven by the orthodox scientific community. Frequently, they do not merely disagree with or are improbable adjuncts to accepted science, but violate its fundamental tenets. Several relevant figures and ideas have been sorted under the techno-occultism rubric, not to be confused with the imaginary sciences, which are literary conventions, although the borderline can be blurred. So, it is controversial enough. People who believe it believe that it is science. People who don't view it as pseudoscience. It was founded by L. Ron Hubbard, who was a pulp writer, and his main market was science fiction magazines. Hence, it was first published in Astounding Science Fiction. Let's see. Hubbard's science fiction had always emphasized the powers of the mind and deployed protagonists who maintained to the end a heroic stance against a corrupt universe. That tracks. I've not read a lot. Well, I actually don't know his full bibliography. I was going to say I've not read a lot of Hubbard. I've read the entire Mission Earth series, which is 10 books. Whether that is a lot, I don't know, because I don't know his full bibliography. Let's see. He lived 1911 to 1986. The entry here says, U.S. author in many genres, including science fiction and fantasy, and subsequent quasi-religious figure whose founding of Dianetics, and in 1952 the Church of Scientology, led to much controversy, which has continued into the 21st century. Okay. I wanted to see if they had a bibliography, but I don't think they do. So, some people might be familiar with the movie Battlefield Earth, which was based on it was based on a sequel to the 10-volume Mission Earth series. It was not a well-regarded movie, but you might be familiar with it. Let's see. Interesting. So just what it notes here. Battlefield Earth, a saga of the year 3000, was published in 1982. An enormously long space opera, composed in an idiom that seemed embarrassingly archaic and filmed as the poorly regarded Battlefield Earth, released in 2000, directed by Roger Christian. The novel Battlefield Earth was followed by the Mission Earth decalogy. So it's the Battlefield Earth comes first. Okay. I've not read Battlefield Earth or seen the movie. I've just read Mission Earth. Mission Earth, a decalogy, meaning 10 volumes, 10-volume sequence whose farcical over-egging of a seriously thin narrative fails to disguise a tale that would have been more at home in the dawn of the pulp magazines, though its length would not have been tolerated. It comprises The Invader's Plan, Black Genesis, The Enemy Within, An Alien Affair, Fortune of Fear, Death Quest, Voyage of Vengeance, Disaster, Villainy Victorious, and The Doomed Planet. The posthumous publication of some of these books has led to speculation as to their true authorship, though later volumes are not convincingly worse than earlier ones. The sequence was released by Hubbard's own firm, Bridge Publications, and was heavily promoted, reflecting Hubbard's and his intellectual heirs' apparent desire to reestablish his reputation in the science fiction world. So, and talks about the Writers of the Future contest. Interesting piece of trivia. The Mission Earth decalogy is a series of books that has a soundtrack, which is still unusual today. I have the soundtrack. I can't play it for you because it's copyrighted music, but it's actually not a bad soundtrack. The soundtrack is pretty good. I want to see if the Wikipedia article mentions the soundtrack at all. Also, we could get a little bit of a plot in the Wikipedia article about the 10-volume Mission Earth. The Voltarians went to conquer the planet Earth to use as a gas station for their planned invasion of the galactic center. The Voltarians come to the conclusion that the indigenous inhabitants will destroy the planet through pollution and possibly war, which would disrupt the future of their invasion timeline. So Royal Combat Engineer Jethro Heller, a character of perfection, incorruptibility, and astonishing ability, is assigned to save Earth from the Earthlings. He investigates, but there are Voltarian factions that want him to fail. So anyway, it's a space opera that's also a bit of a farce. It's actually kind of humorous, but also if you choose to try and read it, it's a very 80s style of humor that doesn't actually, like, just be aware there might be objectionable things in there. Hi, Sterling. Old time announcer. Death Quest. The quest for death. Got the volumes. They haven't mentioned the soundtrack here. Oh, Critical Response. It quotes the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, which we were just looking at. The New York Times review of the first volume, a paralyzingly slow-moving adventure enlivened by interludes of kinky sex, send-ups of effeminate homosexuals, and a disregard of conventional grammar so global as to suggest a satire on the possibility of communication through language. I don't take that as a positive review. It's interesting that they think making fun of homosexuals is one of the good aspects of the book. Again, that review being a reflection of its time, the 1980s. But they don't mention the soundtrack. They don't even have, like, related media. The soundtrack is advertised in the books. Oh yes, it has, the whole series has been challenged and attempts to ban it. 1991, the town of Dalton, Georgia, attempted to remove Mission Earth from its public library, citing what was described as, quote, repeated passages involving chronic masochism, child abuse, homosexuality, necromancy, bloody murder, and other things that are antisocial, perverted, and anti-everything. The attempt was unsuccessful, though this placed the Mission Earth series into the category of banned books that have been challenged in the United States. Interesting that it doesn't mention the soundtrack. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, Edgar Winter. Huh. It has its own Wikipedia entry that is somehow not linked from, or at least I missed the link. This soundtrack in the genre space rock, written and performed, produced by Edgar Winter, who is an American multi-instrumentalist working as a vocalist along with playing keyboards, saxophone, and percussion. I haven't seen too many books with soundtracks, so I'm just gonna read through how it's described here. So, L. Ron Hubbard left detailed instructions and audio tapes for the musicians and producers to follow when making this album, which was released posthumously for Hubbard. Edgar described Mission Earth as, quote, both a return to rock's primal roots and yet highly experimental. And honestly, that sounds accurate to me. Winter had glowing words for Hubbard when he wrote, quote, Ron's technical insight of the recording process was outstanding, unquote. Winter also described Hubbard's delineation of counter rhythm in rock as something, quote, which was nothing short of phenomenal, particularly inasmuch as it had then been entirely unexplored and only later heard in the African-based rhythms of Paul Simon's work some 5 years after Ron's analyses, unquote. The background music is louder than my voice. I will fix that. Like, it's oddly loud in my ears too, but I can't tell how it's coming across for you. Ooh. Let me... Is that better? Can you still hear it? I mean, it's the end of the song, so let me know during the next song if it has improved. Cause I won't know. So anyway, some just like interesting things that relate back to L. Ron Hubbard, who was the writer of Dianetics. And of course, that's what we're going to get a glimpse of today is the first publication of Dianetics, which happens in astounding science fiction. So this entry in the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction is about the magazine. It's a U.S. published pulp magazine, January 1930 to December 1941, and then it switched to letter size for 2 years, and then it was back to pulp size, digest sized. So the copy that we're looking at is 1950, which puts it in the period when it was published in digest size. It later changed its title to Analog, which I think we've looked at a couple issues of Analog previously. Analog is very well known. So let's see. Brought into being when the pulp magazine publisher William Clayton suggested to one of his editors, Harry Bates, the idea of a new monthly magazine of period adventure stories, largely in order to fill a blank space on the sheet on which all the covers of his pulp magazines were simultaneously printed. Bates, he was like, I keep printing all of my magazines and I have this space left over, and it's enough space to print another cover. So let's make another magazine. Wow. Bates counter-proposed a magazine to be called Astounding Stories of Super Science. The idea was accepted, and the first issue appeared in December 1929. The cover dated January 1930. Okay, so let's see. Astounding was unashamedly an action-adventure pulp magazine where science was present only to add a veneer of plausibility to its outrageous melodramas. The flavor is suggested by the following editorial blurb for, I guess I can read through that. For The Pirate Planet by Charles W. Diffin, February 1931. From Earth and sub-Venus converge a titanic offensive of justice on the unspeakable man-things of Torg. So, it's a magazine that very specifically was intended to be adventure with a science flavor. It's not meant to be a hard science magazine. It's more of a like fantastical adventure stories that have a science fiction flavor. And this is the magazine where L. Ron Hubbard chose to publish Dianetics. So that's interesting to know. Unspeakable Man Things sounds like it should be not work safe somehow. Unspeakable Man Things sounds like a really good band name. Yeah. So this article is linked in the main Dianetics article, which is linked in the Finding Aid command from Moobot. So if you're interested and you want to peruse, all of that is there. So let's see. The editor of Astounding, John W. Campbell Jr., began experimenting with Hubbard's ideas in 1949 and believed them valid. In May 1950, Astounding, after much prior publicity, published a long article on Dianetics, seen as a form of psychotherapy that could achieve miraculous results in sweeping away the dross that encumbers ordinary minds. To leave uncovered the Superman latent in all of us. Also see Arrested Development. All right, so the Superman entry here is talking about imaginative context for science fiction stories about the origin of man and life on other worlds. A significant difference, though, between Darwin-inspired images of a fitter species and images inspired by Lamarckian and Bergsonian ideas of creative evolution, in which the emergence of a Superman. So this is a Superman in the sense of the Übermensch, the Nietzsche-esque philosophy, that sort of was the founding ideas behind things like eugenics, etc. So not the DC character called Superman. Marvel or DC has a character called Man-Thing, a plant-based character. Yeah, unspeakable Man-Thing, indeed. So that is the sense that Superman is being used here, is in the sort of like eugenics-y type sense. See also Arrested Development, not the television series. This term is used for the not uncommon scenario whereby humanity's perceived failure to realize its potential, assumed by John W. Campbell Jr. and others to be boundless, results from externally imposed shackles whose recognition can amply justify paranoia. Removal of these constraints is likely to trigger a more or less traumatic conceptual breakthrough. So the sort of idea that is present in a lot of science fiction of mankind has in some way been artificially prevented from reaching its full potential. Okay, so, but Campbell apparently actually believed in Hubbard's Dianetics. Follow-up publicity went well beyond the science fiction magazines. Hubbard's Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, 1950, was published the same year and immediately became a bestseller. The attractions of Dianetics were manifold. it could be practiced after mere hours of training with no formal education necessary. It proposed an apparently simple and coherent model of the mind. It offered an explanation of why so many people feel themselves to be unappreciated failures, and better than that, it offered a cure. So we can look at the actual, like, mechanics of it here later if you want, but also you're welcome to explore this entry in the encyclopedia yourself, or, you know, explore on your own. And if you want to share things that you find out about Dianetics, or indeed Scientology, which it is related to, please feel free to do so. I do think we should pop in and just look at their entry on Scientology real quick, and then we will be looking actually at the magazine itself. I feel like this background is going to be useful for us as we explore the magazine. So this is, again, the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction. In its early years, Scientology was known as Dianetics, a term still used within Scientology. The word Scientology was coined in 1952 by L. Ron Hubbard, its founder. Two of his books on the subject are This is Scientology, The Science of Certainty, 1955, and Scientology, The Fundamentals of Thought, 1956. The activities of the Scientologists have evolved in many curious and highly publicized ways since 1952. A lively account by a not wholly unsympathetic outsider can be found in Cults of Unreason, 1973, by Dr. Christopher Evans, who characterizes the movement as the science fiction religion. There have been many more critical studies since then. Okay. So there's plenty of information here that you're welcome to explore. Scientology and Hubbard. Let's see. I saw the mention of Mission Earth, and I'm like, so the people who published, like the publishers for Scientology did reissues of Battlefield Earth and Mission Earth. And those included the Writers of the Future contest and promoted Dianetics and Scientology. Wow. It looks like a very information-dense encyclopedia entry there. So, all right. Well, let's look at the document itself. I don't know a ton about Scientology, but given that the encyclopedia says Scientology is just another name for Dianetics, I assume we're going to learn a bunch today by looking at this issue of Astounding Science Fiction. All right. I don't have a digital zoom right now, so I have physical zooming as a possibility, but for now I'm just gonna show it, and I might have to just read to you. So it starts with the novelette, The Helping Hand by Paul Anderson, which, as I said, I'm pretty sure the illustration on the front, whoops. Sorry about that. I'm pretty sure the illustration on the front pairs with The Helping Hand by Paul Anderson. Then there's short stories, The Apprentice by Miles Atchison, and oh gosh, now it's blurry. Apologies. I'm having tech issues today, and they're all my fault, and I apologize greatly. The technology is fine. I just keep bumping things. Or not, no, it's me. I'm the tech issue today. I feel like... I'd like to bring the book higher, closer to the camera. I can do this. We love a good user error. That's me. I am user error today. I had the wrong computer prepared. Yeah, I think that works. If we don't like it, I can switch it. Exactly, this is fine. All right, The Apprentice by Miles Atchison and The Potters of Fursk by Jack Vance. And then The Wizard of Lynn by A.E. Van Vogt, which is part 2 of 3 parts. And then the article, Dianetics, The Evolution of a Science by L. Ron Hubbard. Along with it's just a normal issue. It's just a normal issue. I do have Jenga blocks, like wooden blocks that I could build a platform out of if we really wanted to, but I think we're fine. I also have various other ways to lift things up. Okay, so it starts with an editorial about Dianetics. So this is not Dianetics. This is the editorial by the editor, which, if we glance here, just to confirm, the editor is John W. Campbell Jr., who the encyclopedia article said was a believer. And that's the whole reason that this is even published. I just still think it's really kind of interesting that he published it in his science fiction magazine that was created to focus on non-scientific adventure stories. Because there were other science fiction magazines that focused on hard science fiction. And the one they chose to publish in is the one that did not focus on hard science fiction and focused on adventure stories that may or may not contain actual science. It's just a 3-hour tour. Oh dear. I've been watching the old Godzilla movies, and a lot of the setting, a lot of the islands look very much like Gilligan's Island. All right, concerning Dianetics. The long article on Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard in this issue is, I feel, a highly important publication indeed. The article describes a technique of mental therapy of... Hi, Sally Erics. Mods, can I get the do not take medical advice from this stream command? I don't know if it's still pre-printed or not, but can we get that in the chat, please? Because don't take medical advice from this stream. This is not a medical stream. We're looking at historical documents that often contain outdated science. If you feel that you need psychological help, please consult a qualified professional. I don't know if it still exists, Sterling, but it might just be in the historical terms command, but I don't remember. But regardless, don't take medical advice from this stream, please. Okay. This article, or the article, describes a technique of mental therapy of such power that it will, I know, seem fantastic. If so, it can also be said that the power of the human mind is indeed fantastic. I want to assure every reader, most positively and unequivocally, that this article is not a hoax, joke, or anything but a direct, clear statement of the totally new scientific thesis. Dr. Joseph A. Winter, MD, was asked to write the introductory note. He has studied the techniques in detail and learned the techniques himself. I have investigated the material myself. Dr. Winter can speak as a medical expert. I can only say that my investigations have led me to the conviction that the phenomena I have observed definitely merit publication of this material for wider analysis and testing. It would have been wholly unfair to publish such revolutionary material until such time as Hubbard's textbook on the technique was available. That book, Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, is available now from Hermitage House. It contains the exact description of the procedures used. Hubbard, as an engineer, has tackled the problem of the mind from the scientific method. Basically, that method is 1. Gather all available data that is or appears to be relevant. 2. From the data, form a hypothesis. 3. On the basis of the hypothesis, make a prediction. 4. Experiment to check the validity of the prediction. 5. Vary the experiments and collect more data. 6. When the new theory breaks down, take the now collected data and formulate a new hypothesis. And 7. Go back to step 3. That seems like a fairly decent, explanation of the general steps involved in the scientific method. Not finding an actual command. Okay, thank you, Hannah. I know we did at some point. I just don't remember if it just got incorporated into a different command or if we did something I don't know. Anyway. Because we've had other streams that involved things that claimed to give you medical advice, and some of it was definitely not medical advice that you want to be following. Hello and welcome, Whimsies. Hi, Raiders. Hello, 16-Bit Eric. Welcome in, Whimsies. Thank you for joining my stream. Hi, Katrina. Hi, Pretty Witchery. Hi, Baba Yeehaw and Blue Rooster. Welcome in, everybody. This is a show called Archival Adventures that I do once a week on Wednesdays. I am Anthony Wright Day Hernandez, Community Collections Archivist here at Virginia Tech, and I broadcast this show to 2 channels. One is twitch.tv/VTUL Studios, which is the channel owned by the library. And then also to Rogan 27, which is where you all popped in, which is my personal channel. So yeah, you all will know me as Rogan 27. And yeah, if you were not following 16-Bit Eric, I highly encourage you to do so. 16-Bit Eric is a wonderful streamer, who often talks about various things and including tabletop role-playing games. If you're here watching today and learning about speculative fiction and L. Ron Hubbard with me, you'll probably be interested in the things that Eric talks about. So what we've done so far today is we looked at the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction entries about Dianetics and about astounding science fiction and L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology. So we've got a little bit of a basis of knowledge to begin looking at the actual material, which is the 1950, the May 1950? I don't remember. Is it May? Whatever. This issue of Astounding Science Fiction, which, according to the encyclopedia, Astounding Science Fiction primarily focused on adventure stories that involve science, whether or not that science is completely fantastical or based in fact. But the editor whose name is John W. Campbell Jr. He believed in Dianetics enough that he let Hubbard publish it in his magazine, and so this is the magazine that first published Dianetics. And if you're not familiar, Dianetics is the primary original founding document of the religion Scientology. So we're just reading this note from the editor right now, and just, I'm curious. I don't know much, and I'm curious to see what we'll find as we continue exploring. So 1950 was a year of peak medical advice. We didn't use Lysol for things that it's not intended for at all. Sterling, I'm not sure if that was a sarcasm, but I suspect it might be. So yes, do not take medical advice from this stream, please. I am not a medical professional. If you need psychiatric help, please consult a qualified professional. Oh yes, a sarcasm. I thought so. Most readers of this magazine are fully accustomed to that method. To those who are not, the above described process, he just described the scientific method, is not circular. It is spiral. Each turn of the spiral sweeps in more and more territory. It is the turning of precisely such a spiral process that led from Dalton's early atomic hypothesis to Bohr's original theory of atomic structure to present quantum mechanical analysis of nuclear forces. It has led to aircraft that fly, automobiles that work, and radio that covers the planet. It is not a self-defeating circular process. It is also the logical process that led to the present theories of Dianetics. Now, there is an interesting thing about a scientific theory. The scientist always rather vaguely hopes the theory he's working with is true, but knows that it does not need to be. A scientific theory is a useful tool. It need not be true so long as it is useful. This is, especially since he referenced atomic and nuclear science and quantum theory and quantum analysis. And in fact, his statement is 100% correct. If it works, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. When you talk about things like doing maths to do science on the quantum level, we know it works. We know it's wrong, but it still works, so we still use it. Because it doesn't matter that it's wrong because it works. It'd be nice to know what's right, but to use it as a tool, it works, so why stop using it? It's weird, and honestly, everything on the quantum level is weird. Or at least difficult to wrap your mind around. But I feel like it's getting less focused over time, but that could just be me. I'd like to create a timeline for Dianetics to Tom Cruise. I don't know. You're welcome to try, Sterling. Maybe that would be an interesting blog post. It need not be true so long as it is useful. Dalton's theory of implied atoms were hard little balls. It was incorrect, but it advanced chemistry. Therefore, it was a good theory. The present theories of Dianetics may or may not be true, that's unimportant, provided the techniques described actually work. In the scientific method, authority is meaningless. That the new theory disagrees with the great name, or with previous theory, or with, quote, as everybody knows, is a statement best classified as a meaningless noise so far as evidential value is concerned. Proving that something is, quote, theoretically impossible, unquote, is an excellent way of conclusively proving the theory is wrong. what, quote, everybody knows, of course, unquote, has been so consistently wrong over the past 100,000 years, it is surprising that the ancient authority, quote, everybody, unquote, is still quoted. And so far as great name arguments go, simply substitute the arbitrary name Joe Dokes for the authority's name. If the argument no longer sounds so convincing, it never was. And that basically is why the publication of Hubbard's text was necessary before this article could appear. There is one, and only one, scientific argument with, for, or against any scientific theory: experimental evidence. I am most anxious to publish articles confirming or disproving Hubbard's material, whether right or wrong. It is important. He has got some provable, demonstrable results. These must be explained. The only scientific method of examination is to have many scattered workers repeat Hubbard's experiments using precisely the methods Hubbard specifies and record results. Then, following the scientific method, vary the experiments on logically deduced consequences of the theories and see what results occur. To save time and trouble, experimental evidence cannot be denied by argument based on what Freud, Jung, Korzybski, or other authority said. I'm unfamiliar with Korzybski. I am most anxious to publish articles in the field of the mind based on direct experiment. The high population of our mental institutions constitutes experimental evidence that something drastic in the way of revision of psychotherapy techniques is in order. I'm not sure I agree with you on that, Mr. Editor. I think that's an interesting hypothesis that deserves testing. The revisions proposed by Dianetics may or may not be the needed ones, but experimental evidence obtained by actually repeating Hubbard's experiments is the one way to determine. By the editor. Shadows Life 1. Dianetics is published. 2. ? 3. Tom Cruise. Sounds about right. So, he basically says, I think this is right, but even if it's not, it's a useful tool. Science, and we test. I'm not sure I disagree with much in what the editor said. Like, it sounds very reasonable. It's weird to me that it's in a pulp speculative fiction magazine. This magazine existed to publish fiction. So it's weird to me that this is the place that this is published, if they think that it's true and want science to be done on it. That's confusing to me. It seems like the wrong venue. Then we get the short story by Paul Anderson. We're gonna skip that for now just because I don't have enough time, but indeed the illustration on the front clearly pairs with the helping hand, because that was the same kind of creature. Yeah, see, that's the short story. It's a lot of pages. And then we got The Apprentice. I'm gonna skip. It's, what was it, like page 46 for Dianetics? Close. Page 43. I was almost right. There we go. I love the announcement, Hannah. I love how that looks. Oh wow. Apparently on both Moobots, both bots. I have an extra capital A in our note about what we're looking at today. It's fine. You all understand. But I love the note. This stream is not for actual medical advice. Please do not take it as such. If you are having physical or mental issues, please seek professional help as soon as possible. There's a really good episode of Lions Led by Donkeys about L. Ron Hubbard's Navy career and how he made up a ton of stuff about it. Interesting. Hannah, that would be great if you want to make the command. If you want to make that a command on the Rogan 27 channel as well. There should be plenty of free commands, at least on that channel. I don't know about the other channel, but definitely worth keeping. Okay. Let's see what we can learn. I really just want to like bring it closer. I'm gonna do something I rarely do. I'm gonna pop up the Be Right Back screen. So I can grab a stand that will let me raise this a little bit higher. Because I think that will help. So give me just a second. Okay, I'm back. It's lovely getting to do this from my office. Now I can easily like step away for a second and go grab a tool where before I would have basically had to run across half the building and change floors. But yeah, that is so much better. Putting it up on the platform, that works better. And honestly, it would have been much more difficult to move the camera than to just stick a little platform under this. It is very, very nice. And honestly, you have no idea. When I was streaming from the room upstairs, it was like 2 hours in an oven every week. It was that hot, and almost year round it was that hot. So this is so much better. Yeah, you're in this is the third week that the stream has actually happened in my office. I'm just at my desk. Because I now have the tech. I can share information about that sometime. Maybe we'll do a I need to do like a social media post or something that like just shares like what the new setup is like. Hashtag blame Eric. Hey, I don't begrudge anybody watching Eric's stream until the end. I would if I wasn't doing this. So, all right, let's see what L. Ron Hubbard had to share with us in the original publication of Dianetics, The Evolution of a Science, May 1950, Astounding Science Fiction. What if I have to chase hooligans with my broom? I don't know, Pretty Witchery. I don't know. By L. Ron Hubbard. A fact article of genuine importance. See the editor's page. We just read the editor's page. I love it. It's in bold. They're like, this is not fiction. This is a fact article. And they have to do that because this magazine was founded for and exclusively published fiction. So, it's, again, just like, this is such a weird venue to have chosen to publish this. It's just weird. Why would you publish this in a magazine that existed to publish fiction? I'm so confused. I came here knowing it was Dianetics. For the record, I would like to state you are welcome to your opinion. I have not weighed in. I'm not. I don't personally believe, but I also don't know much. I will say I don't begrudge anybody who has learned about it and chosen to adopt it. That is your own choice. It has a lot of trappings of organized religion, which is a big turnoff for me personally. But yeah, honestly, reading this is going to be my biggest introduction to Scientology ever. Maybe because no one else would publish it. I definitely have heard that opinion, Pretty Witchery. I'm trying not to judge people. So you're welcome to your opinions. I'm not gonna say that it's wrong. I'm here to experience the document in its original form and learn from it. So don't think it's as weird as you think. This is a publication for like-minded people, so using it for Dianetic, like Detective Zen, I agree. Publishing it in this volume was a way to reach the audience they wanted to reach, and that makes sense. It just feels weird to me because they're trying to say this is fact, and it's in a magazine that was exclusively fiction. That's what's weird for me. And they weren't even trying to like change the magazine and the magazine's focus. It was just that the editor believed, and so he decided to publish it. I don't know. If you're gonna pick a fictional religion, there are better ones. All I can think of now is that Eric Andre show skit. I don't know it, Blue Rooster. I honestly don't. And Hubbard was, indeed, Hubbard was a science fiction author, so he was a known entity where he had published previously in this magazine, and these were his professional connections. Yes. All right, I'm gonna dive into the text because I'm curious what it says. Introduction. The editor asked me to write this introduction to one of the most important articles ever to be published in astounding science fiction for some very good reasons. First, okay, the introduction is not by Hubbard. The introduction is Dr. Joseph A. Winter, medical doctor. So, First, he wanted to make certain that you readers would not confuse Dianetics with theotimolene or with any other bit of scientific spoofing. If somebody wants to look up what thiotimolene or theotimolene is, I am unfamiliar with this word. So if you want to look that up and drop it in chat, that'd be lovely. This is too important to be misinterpreted. Second, he wanted to demonstrate that the medical profession, or at least part of it, was not only aware of the science of Dianetics, but had tested its tenets and techniques and was willing to admit that there was something to it. There is something to it. There is so much to it, in fact, that its potentialities cannot yet be fully comprehended. Those of us who have worked with Dianetics, and that includes the editor, have seen what it can do and are convinced of its tremendous importance. I am not going to try to persuade you of its importance, to you personally and to the human race. You must determine that for yourself. But while you are exercising your judicious scientific skepticism, let me give you another point to consider in the meantime. Dianetics is, in addition to all its other attributes, a thrilling adventure. Ron Hubbard, long a member of the Explorers Club, has gone exploring in the most obscure terra incognita of all, the human mind. He has explored a region wherein lies the mightiest power in the known universe. The mightiest power known in the universe today is not the atomic bomb. That power was discovered, developed, and controlled by the greater power of human thought. And human thought, our most intimate possession, has been the least known of all powers. Hubbard, in undertaking this research, undertook the greatest adventure any man can imagine, a stranger and more fantastic experience than any visit to the cities of the Arabian Nights. To understand the human mind, he had to find a path into the seat of madness, find a way through that zone of distortion of thought, and on the other side, he found the most marvelous mechanism imaginable. He found a computing machine whose functional capacities transcend those of any yet created by human efforts. It is a machine incapable of error, working with memory storage banks of infinite capacity and incredibly detailed exactitude. I'm going to pause here and just reiterate, do not take medical advice from this stream. We look at historic documents that often contain outdated or unreliable scientific information, and if you have actual medical needs, consult a qualified professional. Thank you for finding this for me, Hannah. Thiotimolene is a fictitious chemical compound conceived by American biochemist and science fiction author Isaac Asimov. It was first described in a spoof science paper titled The Endochronic Properties of Resublimated Thiotimolene in 1948. The major peculiarity of the chemical is its endochronicity. It starts dissolving before it makes contact with water. Awesome. So it was a fake, like it was a fictional science paper. And so they wanted to make the point that this is not that. All right. Yeah, Detective Zen. I was like, right there, I feel like it's a falsifiable, like, incapable of error. A machine incapable of error. I have questions. Because if it was a machine made by people, like humans, it's definitely capable of error. And if it was not a machine, or if it was a machine that was not made by humans, I would like to know more about where it came from and why the people who made it are incapable of error. The impossibility of error in a computing machine seems implausible to me. I won't say impossible. Seems implausible. And Hubbard's discovery of the true nature of this wonderful device, the human mind, gives us answers we have never had before. They are engineering answers developed not by metaphysical word juggling, but by the engineer's approach to a specific defined problem. They contradict many of the basic tenets of modern psychotherapeutic theory and manhandle many of its principles of psychology, or many of the principles of psychology. Modern psychiatry holds that predisposition to insanity is heritable, and that there is no cure. Sorry, it's bouncing. And that there is no cure for several forms of insanity. They can only be treated by surgically excising a portion of the brain in a prefrontal lobotomy, or this is an actual and literal description of the operation known as a transorbital leucotomy, by electroshocking a patient unconscious and running an ice pick-like instrument into the brain by thrusting it through the eye socket, back of the eyeball, and slashing the brain with it. That description, as written by this medical professional, is an actual description of actual procedures that were in use in 1950. So that is absolutely accurate. I don't believe those procedures are commonly used today. Thank you for historical termsing us. Don't manhandle principles without consent. Yeah, neoguts. The 50s, it's interesting, especially like the 50s when you start looking at the science of the mind, psychology, psychiatry. Yeah, it's interesting. Dianetics denies this thesis. Insanity is not due to heritable factors, but it is contagious. And any insanity not based on actual organic destruction of the brain can be cured to regain a more than normal mental stability and clarity. Dianetics offers hope where psychiatry can only be gloomy. Okay. Interesting observation, not very scientific. Dianetics offers hope, psychiatry is just sad. Oh, there's nothing you can do. Let's cut out part of your brain. That might have been 1950s psychiatry. I don't believe that of today's psychiatry. The assertion that insanity is contagious, I think highly depends on what your definition of insanity is. We know that ideas are contagious. That's what a meme is. There's something that is commonly called brainwashing, where you can cause somebody to take on certain beliefs and behaviors by repeatedly dosing them with drugs or visual stimuli, auditory stimuli, etc., to condition them in a certain way. We know that these things exist, and so yes, in the sense that a meme is contagious, or brainwashing can be given from one person to another, altered brain states are contagious. I don't know what their definition of insanity is. So I can't take this assertion at face value. I need more information to truly understand what they're saying. Hi, Key Squared. I'm seeing these claims about thought and computing and thinking about them in contrast to my library and information science classes where we read Claude Shannon's writings from the same time about information and computation, and it's a neat contrast. I'm not familiar with Shannon's writings. I would be very interested if you can point to some synopses. PSA, drugs are bad when not prescribed by your doctor. This is true. Where was I? Let's see. Dianetics can only be, psychiatry can only be gloomy. Dianetics substantiates a long-felt intuition that neurosurgery is not necessarily the best thing for the human race. A good many of us doctors have felt that the practice of subtotal euthanasia by destruction of the neural pathways to the prefrontal lobes was a medieval treatment, and yet it was the apparent lesser of two evils. Dianetics relegates surgical mutilation of the mind to the same level as bloodletting and blistering. One final note, the following article will not supply you with sufficient information to make you a Dianetic operator. That information will be given in a book being published by Heritage House. The Asterisk, Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, Manual of Dianetic Therapy, Hermitage House, 1 Madison Avenue, New York City. It was $3. In order to practice any scientific technique successfully, you must know more about it than can be told in an article of this length. Those of us who are interested in Dianetics want to be certain that when it is used properly. To sum up, I sincerely feel that Ron Hubbard has discovered the key which for the first time permits a true evaluation of the human mind and its function in health and in illness, the greatest advance in mental therapy since man began to probe into his mental makeup. Moreover, he has contributed to the welfare of the race by deciding to give freely of the knowledge which took 15 arduous years of study and research to acquire. There are many who would be tempted to capitalize on it, but therein lies one of the beauties of Dianetics, a clear, I'm sorry, I'm confused by this sentence. A clear cannot help but be altruistic, especially when that altruism helps him better to survive. Clear in this sense, I'm guessing, is a jargon term used within Scientology that I'm not familiar with. So, Pretty Witchery, no, I have not. I am not familiar with this term. Ooh, Key Squared, thank you for linking the Wikipedia about Claude Shannon and information theory. And the Scientific American article. Thank you. Oh gosh, lots of resources. Apparently, but these appear to be like fairly easy to find things. We could drop those. We could cross post those links over to the other channel too, and that'd be great. If Hannah, if you want to do that, or I could copy paste them. That would be lovely. Thank you very much. I like the Valar. You don't have to pray to them or tithe. Yeah, no, I know nothing. Call me Jon Snow. Achieving the state of clear means a person has supposedly overcome the reactive mind and is in complete control of their analytical mind. According to Hubbard, quote, a clear is a being who no longer has his own reactive mind and therefore suffers none of the ill effects of the reactive mind can cause. Interesting. I think it's still slightly going past me, but basically they've gone through some sort of process. It's a load of horse hockey. Okay. Guess who I did a presentation on? Oh, He Squared, that's awesome. Like, I think I ended up focusing more on Ranganathan and just, yeah. Also, just, we had this conceptual thought experiment of, is an antelope a document? And so considering the documentalope is something that we did in my grad school program. And so theories of information, is an antelope a document? Was our experiment for how to understand information. Okay. Oh my. Chat is spicy today. It's fun. Okay, so in this present civilization of ours, where our techniques of destruction dangerously exceed our abilities to survive, there have been many thinkers engaged in a frantic search for a method to control man's race-homicidal, race-suicidal tendencies. I feel certain that Dianetics is the answer, if you use it and know what you're doing. Joseph A. Winter, MD. Okay. Does that mean that we're now getting to the part written by L. Ron Hubbard? Because so far we've had introductions by other people. No, Pretty Witchery, you do not have to leave. It is helpful. You're providing a lot of useful information alongside your opinions, and you're welcome to have opinions in the chat. The reason that I've not expressed opinions myself is that I truly know nothing. I don't feel like I can judge people who believe in Scientology because I know nothing about it. So, okay. The optimum computing machine is a subject which many of us have studied. If you were building one, how would you design it? First, the machine should be able to compute with perfect accuracy on any problem in the universe and produce answers which were always and invariably right. 42. Second, the computer would have to be swift, working much more quickly than the problem and process could be vocally articulated. Third, the computer would have to be able to handle large numbers of variables and large numbers of problems simultaneously. Fourth, the computer would have to be able to evaluate its own data, and there would have to remain available within it not only a record of its former conclusions, but the evaluations leading to those conclusions. Fifth, the computer would have to be served by a memory bank of nearly infinite capacity in which it could store observational data, tentative conclusions, which might serve future computations, and the data in the bank would have to be available to the analytical portion of the computer in the smallest fractions of a second. Sixth, the computer would have to be able to rearrange former conclusions or alter them in the light of new experience. Seventh, the computer would not need an exterior program director, but would be entirely self-determined about its programming, guided only by the necessity value of the solution, which it itself would determine. Eighth, the computer should be self-servicing and self-arming against present and future damage, and would be able to estimate future damage. Ninth, the computer should be served by perception, by which it could determine necessity value. The equipment should include means of contacting all desirable characteristic in the finite world. This would mean color visio, tone audio, odor, tactile, and self-perceptions, for without the last, it could not properly service itself. They're describing the human brain. It's very obvious that their conceit is going to be that the human brain is the perfect computer. I have issues, though, with some of their statements because it's clear that they want us to draw the conclusion that the human brain is the perfect computer, yet some of their very first requirements are not met by the human brain. One of my nicknames is Bumblebee, so I guess Angry Vibrating works. Oh dear. Makes me wonder if there's anything fun in the archives on the history of information science, or Virginia libraries, or anything associated. Key squared, that is an excellent question. I will take that note, and either I or Sterling will explore to discover. There's a good chance that this will open and you'll all see it, and I don't want that, but okay, good. I had no idea which screen it was going to open on, but it's fine. I just opened Notepad. I wonder if the magical volcano is in this version. I have no idea what, like, there's a magical volcano? Ooh, oh, Katrina, thank you for the follow. I just noticed. Okay, so let's see. Where did I leave off? 10th? Yeah, 10th. So 11th, for the purposes of solutions, it would have to be able to create new situations and imagine new perceptions hitherto not perceived, and should be able to conceive these to itself in terms of tone audio, color visio, odor, tactile, and self-sensation, and should be able to file anything so conceived as imagined labeled memories. 12th, its memory banks should not exhaust on inspection, but should furnish to the central perceptor of the computer without distortion any perfect copies of everything and anything in the banks in color, audio, tone, visio, odor, tactile, and organic sensations. Oh my gosh, my perfect computer is broken. There's aliens. The one thing the article doesn't take into account is the more complex the machine, the more prone to breaking it could be. I say my perfect computer is broken because this is literally saying that memories of the perfect computer can be recalled without distortion in perfect detail, including color, audio, tone, visio, odor, tactile, and organic sensations. And since I do not possess the ability to picture things in my head, I don't get the color, audio, and tone visio. I get the audio and tone, but not the color and visio portions. Xenu, a figure in the Church of Scientology, a sacred and esoteric teaching. According to the technology, Xenu was the extraterrestrial ruler of a galactic confederacy who brought billions of his people to Earth 75 million years ago, stacked them around volcanoes, and killed them with hydrogen bombs. Official Scientology scriptures hold that the Thetans, immortal spirits of these aliens, adhere to humans, causing spiritual harm. Interesting. Yeah, let's keep pushing through the actual publication here of Dianetics. I don't know if any of that is in here or not. It'd be interesting to know if that is in here or was added later. It sounds like a science fiction story. Like, that sounds like an interesting plot for a story. 13th, the entire machine should be portable. So, unlike Deep Thought, the computer that calculated the answer of 42 in A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that computer was not portable. There are other desirable characteristics, but those listed above will do for the moment. Whoa. You said that you were going to describe the perfect computer. You can't stop and be like, there are other desirable characteristics. You're either describing the perfect computer or not. If there are other desirable characteristics, They are necessary in order to fully define the perfect computer. It might be somewhat astonishing at first to conceive of such a computer, but the fact is, the machine is in existence. There are about 2 billion of them in use today, and many, many more billions have been made and used in the past. In fact, you've got one, for we are dealing with the human mind. Yep, I could see that that was where it was going. I do not agree with you that the human mind is the perfect computer. A, you failed to fully define what the perfect computer is, and B, your list of requirements is not satisfied by the human mind. Compute with perfect accuracy on any problem in the universe and produce answers which are always and invariably right? That is not. That is your first requirement, and that is not the human mind. Oh gosh, Blue Rooster, yeah, we could do that, potentially. I've not seen Battlefield Earth. I would watch it. The thing is, this was already a pretty good sci-fi story, Lost Legacy by Heinlein 10 years earlier. Oh, gosh, Key Squared. Sterling, if you're here, I'm going to take this as a note, too. Let's look and see if we have a copy of Heinlein's Lost Legacy, and maybe look at that next month. Because now I'm curious. Okay, so I guess here's where it saves itself. In fact, you've got one, for we are dealing with the human mind. The above is a generalization of the optimum brain. The optimum brain, aside from the fact that it is not always capable of solving every problem in the universe, basically works exactly like that. Okay. I continue to have issues. First, you say you're going to tell me about the perfect computer, and you list 13 requirements for the perfect computer. And then you tell me there are more things that would be wanted, but these 13 requirements will suffice for now, which doesn't satisfy your original intent of defining the perfect computer in the first place. Then you tell me that the human brain is that perfect computer. And then you immediately tell me that that's an overgeneralization and the human brain isn't actually the perfect computer. Okay. Moving on. The optimum brain, aside from the fact that it is not always capable of solving every problem in the universe, basically works exactly like that. It should have color visio, in motion, tone audio, flowing, odor, tactile, and good organic memory recall. And it should have color visio, in motion, tone audio, flowing, odor, tactile, and organic imagination, also recallable after imagining, like any other memory. Okay, as I said, I am fully incapable of any visual imagination at all, and therefore I can't recall visual imagination either. If you look up aphantasia, it was described in the 1800s, but not actually like documented really super well until like 2013 or 2018 or something. It was mind-blowing for me when I realized that people actually could see pictures in their head. I still don't understand that. Um, okay. I love the chat that's going on. It's amazing. Let's see. Okay, and it should be able to differentiate between actuality and imagination with precision. Generally, humans are able to tell what is reality and what is imagination. Generally, I say. And it should be able to recall any perception, even the trivial, asleep and awake, from the beginning of life to death. Clearly, we all have faulty perfect machines. That is the optimum brain. That and much, much more. It should think with such swiftness that vocal pondering would be utterly unable to keep pace with 1,000th part of one computation. I begin to see where arrested development, the theory of arrested development that is prominent in a lot of science fiction, comes into play here. The idea of the Ubermensch, the Superman, and the arrested development of the human race. I see those elements here very, very clearly. And modified by viewpoint and educational data, it should be always right. Its answers never wrong. Well, many humans definitely believe that they're always right. I would argue that they often are wrong, despite believing that they're right. That is the brain you have, potentially. That is the brain which can be restored to you unless you have had some section of it removed. If it does not do these things, it is slightly out of adjustment. Oh, there we go. As I said, we all have broken perfect brains. And here's the pitch. Now we're gonna fix it for you. It took a long time to arrive at the data. I have, just from reading it, if you look back at some of our previous episodes, I did a whole bunch of looking at patent medicines, the flim-flam cure-alls of the past. And so far, this reads very much like those. It took a long time to arrive at the data that this was an optimum brain. In the beginning, it was not realized that some people had color visio, moving recall, for instance, and that some did not. Hey, wow, actually 1950s recognizing aphantasia as something that exists. That's surprising to me. I had no idea that many people imagined and knew they were imagining in-tone audio, etc., and would have received with surprise the data that somebody could smell and taste last Thanksgiving's turkey when he recalled it. 11 years ago, when the researches which culminated in Dianetics, G.R. Dianusa? I don't understand. I don't know what that parenthetical is doing. 11 years ago, when the researches that culminated in Dianetics thought were started in earnest, no such high opinion of the human brain was held. In fact, the project was not begun to trace brain function and restore optimum operation, but to know the key to human behavior and the code law which would reduce all knowledge. My right to enter this field was an inquiring brain which had been trained in mathematics and engineering, and which had a memory bank full of questions and far-flung observations. It was the basic contention that the human mind was a problem in engineering, and that all knowledge would surrender to an engineering approach. And another primary assumption was made. All answers are basically simple. As it stands today, the science of Dianetics and its results, which are as demonstrable as the proposition that water at 15 pounds per square inch and 212 degrees Fahrenheit boils, is an engineering science built heuristically on axioms. It works. That is the only claim for Dianetics or chemistry. They may not be true, but they work, and work invariably, in the finite world. When the problem had been shuffled around in the beginning, and when questions had been formulated to be asked of the universe at large, there was no concept of the optimum brain. Attention was fixed upon the normal brain. The normal brain was considered to be the optimum brain. Attempts were made, when work finally got around to the problem of the brain itself, to obtain results comparable with the normal mind. Minds became aberrated. When restored, they would be normal. In fact, in the beginning, it was not even certain that minds could be restored. All that was required was an answer to existence and the reasons minds aberrated. In a lifetime of wandering around, many strange things have been observed. The medicine man of the Goldie people of Manchuria, the shamans of North Borneo, Sioux medicine men, the cults of Los Angeles, and modern psychology. Amongst the people questioned about existence were a magician whose ancestors served in the court of Kublai Khan and a Hindu who could hypnotize cats. Dabbles had been made in mysticism. Data had been studied from mythology to spiritualism. Odds and ends like these, countless odds and ends. If you were constructing this science, where would you have started? Here were all the various cults and creeds and practices of a whole world to draw upon. Here were facts to a number which makes 10 to the 21st binary digits look small. If you were called upon to construct such a science and to come up with a workable answer, what would you have assumed, gone to observe, or computed? Everybody and everything seemed to have a scrap of the answer. The cults of all the ages, of all the world, seem each one to contain a fragment of the truth. How do we gather and assemble the fragments? Or do we give up this nearly impossible task and begin postulating our own answers? Hannah, thank you. We're technically past our end time. We'll find out. We'll see how far we go. I don't know. I can't go too much longer, but let's see. Well, this is the story of how Dianetics was built. This, at least, was the approach made to the problem. Dianetics works, which is what an engineer asks, and it works all the time, which is what nature demands of the engineer. First attempts were made to discover what school or system was workable. Freud did occasionally, so did Chinese acupuncture. At first, attempts were made to discover what school or system was workable. Freud did occasionally, so did Chinese acupuncture, so did magic healing crystals in Australia and miracle shrines in South America, faith healing, voodoo, narcosynthesis, and understand this right here. No mystic mumbo jumbo need apply. An engineer has to have things he can measure. Later, the word demon is used. That's because Socrates describes one so well. Dianetic use of it, like Clerk Maxwell's, is descriptive slang. But no wild, immeasurable guesses or opinions were wanted. When an engineer uses only those, bridges break, buildings fall, dynamos stop, and a civilization goes to wreck. A primary need in arriving at a dynamic principle of existence was to discover what one wanted to know about existence. One does not have to dab along with the gods to know that they point unvaryingly in, if divinely, up a very blind alley. And an engineering study of mysticism demonstrates that mysticism embraces largely what it cannot hope to state precisely. Wow, the first proposition went off something on this order. Let us find out what we cannot consider or do not need to consider to get an answer we can use. Some tests seemed to demonstrate that the exact identity of the prime mover unmoved was not necessary to the computation. Man has been convinced for a long time that he started this affair, so no great gain could be made in getting disputive about it. Let us then take a level immediately below the prime mover unmoved. Now, let us see what else falls into the category of data unnecessary to the computation. Well, we've studied telepathy, demons, and Indian rope trick, and human soul, and so far, we have yet to find any constants in this class of data. So let us draw a line below that as our highest level of necessary information, and now call this our highest line. Shadows grumbles in engineer. What do we have left? We have the finite world, blue surge suits, Salinas Valley, the cathedral at Rhyme, as a building, and several decayed empires and roast beef for dinner. We have left only what we can perceive with no higher level of abstraction. Now, how do we perceive? And on what? And with what? Ensues here a lot of time spent, 1937, in computing out the brain as an electronic calculator with the probable mathematics of its operation plus the impossibility of such a structure capable of doing such things. Let us then rule out the necessity of knowing structure and use this as an analogy only, which can become a variable in the equation if necessary. Now, what do we have? Well, we've been a little hard on demons and the human soul. These are popular, but they refuse to stand out and submit to a thorough inspection and caliper mensuration, and if they won't so cooperate, then neither will we. And so two things come from this reduction of equation factors necessary to solution. First, existence is probably finite, and second, finite factors alone answered the need of the problem. Probably. We could be very obtuse and mathematical here, but no matter. A good workable heuristic principle, the workable one, is worth an infinity of formulas based on authority and opinions which do not work. All we can do is try the principle. We need a dynamic principle of existence. We look in Spencer and we find something which reads awfully good. It read good when he took it from Indian writings, the same place Lucretius got it. But it only pretends to be dynamic because it doesn't compute. We need a dynamic principle, not a description. But what does a principle mean in a sphere this large? And doesn't it need a better definition? Let us then call it a dynamic lowest common denominator of existence. Will such a lowest common denominator lead us straight up above the highest level we have set and send us spinning off with a fistful of variables and no answer? It had better not. So let us pose some more questions and see if they clarify the principle. Yeah, there's more to this than we're ever going to get to today. I think it's interesting. He's an excellent writer. I mean, he was a published author well before doing this. And I think what we've seen so far poses interesting questions and describes an interesting method of analysis. It comes across to me as like an exercise in philosophy. Like, it's the sort of analysis I would expect a philosopher to use. It doesn't necessarily to me, and I don't know, it's much longer. There's so much more. This document is one of the founding and bedrock, like, original, what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of the sources of the religion Scientology. I am not a Scientologist. I know nothing more than what I have encountered so far in looking at this work today. I've not even finished reading this work. My observation in encountering this for the first time is that this comes across as philosophical speculation, which I can definitely see how philosophical speculation could form the basis of a religion. I don't know enough. There's clearly more here to say one way or another whether Scientology is real. Clearly there are opinions in chat, and honestly, I mostly agree that I don't think Scientology is true. The things that I've heard about it seem kind of out there to me. That said, this, as presented so far, seems really reasonable as regards philosophical thought. So I don't know how we get from interesting philosophical thought to what you were posting in chat about thetans and people being put in capsules at the base of volcanoes and killed with hydrogen bombs, and their spirits causing our computers not to work right. I don't know how we get from this to that. That's where I'm like, I don't understand. But then again, I don't understand organized religion generally. This document, what I've seen so far of Dianetics, apart from clearly I have issues with, you stated you were going to do X and then you proceeded not to do X. Once we actually get past his defining what the perfect computer is, and he starts talking about or getting into these like questions, this to me is just philosophy. And it's interesting, and because he's an author, it reads really well. Yeah, this is fascinating. It's very interesting to me. And Pretty Witchery, I do see your comment that it is a cult. Never ever give them your details. They will try to draw you in forever. It gives, if I talk enough, you'll eventually believe me. I can see how this could have been really compelling if I read it as a stressed teenager trying to understand the world. It also puts me in mind of a human emotions and cognition version of the XKCD strip on relationship drama. Interesting. Yeah, so I this was fascinating, and I honestly, I'm not sure I ever would have thought to pick this to do a stream on, which, heck, that's part of the reason why I have someone assisting me in preparing for these episodes. Sterling selected this, and it's really interesting. We got a little bit of background by looking at like the encyclopedia article and stuff like that. And I knew that we wouldn't be reading the whole thing. I thought it was interesting to read the editor's note, the introduction from the medical doctor, and then just like dip into the very beginning of it. It is substantially longer. Like it is, I don't know, at least another 40 pages or so. Presumably at some point it will get into magic volcanoes and hydrogen bombs, but so far it was just like philosophy. Watch going clear? Is that, I'm sorry, are you talking about my watch, or are you telling us to watch something? I'm not certain. I do need to end, though. We are like 20 minutes over time. Going Clear is the title of a documentary about Scientology. So you're recommending that people watch that. Okay. Yeah, I have had just vague hints. I don't know a whole lot. So this has been very interesting to me. So we will look Key Squared. I don't know if we have Lost Legacy by Heinlein, but if we do, I will look to take a gander at that the last Wednesday in March, since you indicated that it is basically this, but 10 years earlier. So I'm really curious, and we'll see if we've got a copy. Next week is the first Wednesday in March, and we will be revisiting the Philip Peltz journal. If you remember, this will be the third stream with that journal. Philip Peltz was the chief engineer of the USS Dakota, a Union ship during the American Civil War that participated in the blockade of the South and the hunt for the Monitor, is it? I don't remember. The Confederate ironclad. And we've been reading the journal, and it's just been fascinating so far. So we're returning to that next week. And then after that, I don't remember what's immediately after that. I know mid-month on St. Patrick's Day, we will be looking at the Virginia Tech nuclear power plant, which was originally scheduled for January back when I came down with COVID. So, there's some good stuff coming up. It was reprinted in the later collection Assignment in Eternity, but if you think it was a magazine publication in roughly 1940-41. Yeah, so if it's a magazine publication, there's a good chance we might have it. It's just whether we have the magazine it was published in and the issue that it was published in. But we can look for it. So, yeah. More wacky boat shenanigans with purple prose. Yeah, no, it's actually been a really, really interesting journal to read so far. So I'm excited. Let me look and see where we're going to go. Because I do want to make sure that we get a raid in here. So I know, like, they have their lovely new raid
see the
tool.
other ball dropping now. So now this is a good time to...
I don't know any of those people. So then I go and look. So we got Steven on. Jen the Human. Monterey Bay Aquarium. Ooh. We might do the aquarium today. DC Lacer. Yeah, we haven't done the aquarium in a while. Interestingly, not aquatic. We'll be raiding over to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, but today is the aviary cam. So preen your feathers and get ready to flap. We'll be flying over there in just a moment. I do want to say thank you all so much for joining me. Let me actually get this raid entered here, because there we go. Yeah, so thank you for joining me. I hope that I will see you all again soon. And yeah, until I do, keep exploring history, everybody. As I awkwardly try to poke the right thing. Later, all.